Words are about to be spoken on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, brought to you by the Ad Free Show's podcast Heat and Wrestling according to Alba Networks. I'm John Alba. That's the broken one, the woken one, the spoken one himself for the final time in 2025. Mr. Matt Hardy, what's going on, my man? How are we?
We're doing good. Anybody see what I just threw in there? I threw in a little something new today.
Here, I'm gonna put you on full screen. Go ahead, throw it out there for everyone again.
Oh no, I threw in something new.
Little Easter egg.
I threw in that.
Ah, yes. Well, you are wrestling's top grifter, so
top grifter. You're damn right I am.
Sounds like
I'm proud of it, baby.
Sounds like a good T-shirt. Truthfully, I'd be down to clown with that one.
But there's a whole bunch of new T-shirts. I'm ready to push.
Okay.
The Goats T-shirt has been doing remarkably well, and also the zip-up hoodie, which is very, very cool. Which I think even the start of this Goats thing, Jeff and I, like some people were saying that to us every so often. We're like, we should kind of lean into it a little bit. And now I think this thing we're doing with the Righteous, I think it could be a very good bridgeway to doing something very special and different and new and unique with this whole greatest of all time concept.
I mean, we got to see some actual goats in the Broken Universe at some point, like literal physical goats. It's only natural.
Jeff's ready. Jeff's almost to the point. Jeff's like, man, he said, like, everybody's saying it, man. Like, we're going to have to go to a full field of goats, man, and just show them who stands out.
Certainly so. Let's talk about TNA real quick, because we are going to be, by the way, later this episode, in just a few minutes here, we're going to be doing the Hardy Awards. It's our annual edition of the Best of 2025, according to Matt Hardy. We're going to get into that momentarily, but I do want to ask you, big report this weekend. You guys have seemingly re-signed with TNA. You were the one who put that out there on social media. There were some rumors and innuendo and reports throughout the week over what your contract status was, and you said that the Hardys have indeed re-signed. So, Matt Fact or Matt Fiction, the Hardys have sealed the deal with TNA on a new contract.
Matt Fact, Matt and Jeff have re-signed with TNA.
Okay. So that's
not even the one I had in my back pocket too.
Okay, so this is the real deal. This is the real deal right now, huh? So the Hardys, they've signed a new contract with TNA. What brought you to the decision? What made you want to make this happen?
We had been talking about this for a while, and once we knew this new TV deal was almost together, I mean, it's been right on the verge. It was on the verge of being all the way together. It's just like very fine details. They were making sure all the I's were dotted, all the T's were crossed. And then once that contract was done, we knew where we were going. We knew there was going to be some more money. We like this was our best choice. And it's going to allow us to do some other cool things that everyone will learn about in the future as well. So it's going to be a little more than just TNA in some ways. So it's going to be very cool. It's going to be very fun. Jeff and I were very happy. We love dealing with Carlos. Carlos has been very understanding. Negotiating with him was very, very easy. So we have this new TV deal. We're going to be locked in, and we're going to make a little more dinero, which is nice, and then have a little more say in some of the things I think we do.
That's all very interesting. Can you elaborate at all on two of those things there? You said have a little more say. You said maybe some working outside of just the parameters of TNA. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask a follow-up to those.
Oh, that's all good. Well, I mean, we are in a partnership with WWE. So that means there is a possibility of maybe doing some WWE stuff as well, just because we are a WWE legacy act. So it's very cool that, we have that relationship right now. That was a multi-year deal. So, that conversation is ongoing. It seems like it's going to be a very exciting year, especially now that we are on the level we are on with AMC. So we're super pumped, super excited about that. And as far as having a little more say in things, like I almost feel like it's time for me maybe to even kind of maybe move into a little bit of the office, still be an active competitor, but like try and also contribute to the greater good of what we're doing at TNA, AMC, everything else. And like if I can be a little more hands-on with idea pitching, even for different talents. I mean, there's a lot of young talents that I see like, oh my God, I'd love to get them going in this direction. I'd love to get this happening for them, whatever. And I would like to kind of maybe make that a part of my deal too.
Is Matt Hardy getting creative control?
I think Jeff and I kind of had creative control. In all honesty, I don't think that had to be written into our deal. And creative control is not really. It's not. I don't think it's really a thing. I mean, people would say that, like, oh my God, this person has creative control or this kind of creative control. I mean, doesn't really work that way in this day and age, brother. But we definitely do get a lot of input into whatever we're doing.
Well, that's exciting. I'm happy for you guys. Do you see this being a long-term relationship type thing?
I think, I mean, it could be. It very well could be. Oh, someone's creeping. There was Wolfgang Hardy. Do we get a shot of him in the door? Hey, Wolfie. Yeah. Come here. Okay. What's up? You got something to say? We're talking live to people.
No.
Right now, it's live.
Okay.
Are you going to wrestle or are you going to be a manager? Do you want to be a manager just where you can insult people?
Yeah.
But no bumps? You don't want to get beat up?
No.
Okay. Good deal. You're
smart
smart
man.
All right. Close the door, please. Thank you. He said, so you're telling me I could make money in wrestling just insulting people? That's awesome, Dad.
It's a good way to make money.
Yeah.
Certainly is.
But no, man, I'm very excited, man. I'm excited for so many guys, especially a guy like Mike Santana, a guy like Leon Slater, to be on this platform and to be in positions to succeed. I'm super excited for these guys.
Josh Henney saying that doesn't work for me, brother. So we're not getting any of that from you?
No, I make everything work. I came up from one of the most intelligent wrestling minds of all time. Close the door, Wolfie. If you're going to open it, you have to close it. Okay? Close it. It's not closed.
Oh, man. Your Barriqua came out there.
I just know how I have to deal with him specifically.
That doesn't work for me, brother.
Oh yeah, no, that's like silly. I mean, I came up under the tutelage of Michael P.S. Hayes, where it's like, well, when you're given this, you have to learn how to make the most out of it, and that really is being creative to the max. I really believe so. Do you even know the story behind this? If I gave you this specific example where Michael Hayes kind of turned my whole thought process around?
No, but I'm always down for a good Michael Hayes story. So please, by all means, all you.
So do you remember when Bob Holly and Crash Holly were the super heavyweights?
Of course.
And there was a time where they would bring people out and they said, we're going to weigh you on a scale to make sure you're big enough. And then they're going to obviously insult you and say, no, you're too small because we're super heavyweights. You shouldn't be in the ring with us, blah, 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 blah. We had just linked up with the Brood, right? And it was myself and Jeff and Gangrel. We were like dark, gothic. They kind of wanted us to be serious. And they had written into the show that they were going to bring us out and they were going to cost how about you, Karen Carpenter? I think that's what Bob Holly called me. How about you, Karen Carpenter? Why don't you get on the scale? And we're like, Michael, and he was our producer for the segment. And I was like, Michael, this is for us just to go and get on the scale. And it's weird. We're going into a match with these guys. I get it, but don't we look kind of silly, going out there and actually getting on a scale and they want us to weigh and then we let them do it and they insult us and we don't jump them, whatever. He said, you can look at it a couple different ways. He said, what if you realize these guys are idiots that are doing this because they believe they're super heavyweights and it's part of their, intimidation tactics, whatever else. And they want to do that, kind of get in your head, whatever else. But what if you're doing a reverse, getting back in their head and you kind of play along with it, but you're setting them up the whole while. And we actually changed the order of we did things. I remember he called Gangrel fat too. He said, "How about you?" He said, "You probably make the weight. Get on the scale, you fat bastard." He threw an insult at Dave. But I remember we did a deal where I think Jeff weighed first, then it was me, and then Gangrel. But by the time that ended and it was off, Jeff had gone on the top rope already, and Jeff came off with a double drop kick, and then we just started beating their ass blah, 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 blah. And look, the Brood played into this. And they set the Hollies up. The Hollies thought they were setting them up and like intimidating them, getting in their heads. But actually the Hardys and the Brood, they were setting these guys up. And I was like, whoa, like what a great point for him to make. Like there are ways around those things to work within those parameters of what they ask you to do, because they were looking for the entertainment aspect of it all. And it was really, when Bob Holly would go out there and shit talk people, it was very entertaining. And that changed my whole perspective on when you get some creative that's not that good about, okay, how can I manipulate this within those parameters to work for me and take advantage of it? And I was taught that lesson by Michael Hayes. It's one of the best lessons I've ever learned.
It's a great story. Haven't heard that one. Now we got something new for the live show rotation. I like that.
Yeah.
Let's. Speaking of bad creative, there was some interesting comments about Vince McMahon this week from someone you know very well. Good old.
There were bad comments. There were bad comments about Vince McMahon.
I know, right? You're gonna do the Home Alone.
Well, that's actually Whoopi's thing. Whoopi does that. Hey, Whoopi!
Oh boy,
come here.
You're inviting chaos.
Hey, he's a great grandfather. Hey, do your shock thing, Whoopi. That you're shocked. Look at this. All right, you ready? Here, react to me. Come closer, Whoopi. Come closer. All right, put your hands down. I'm going to tell you a line, and then you're shocked. Hey, somebody was talking bad about Vince McMahon on the internet. How about good meme? All right, thank you.
Good job, Wolfie.
That's his favorite go-to. I love that.
So it was your old pal Jim Ross on Grilling JR's podcast.
Oh, okay, JR.
And I wouldn't say he was talking shit about him per se, but they were interesting comments. I'm going to read them real quick here. He felt that because if you watched any interactions between Vince and Jim over the years publicly, you knew there was definitely animosity there on Vince's end.
Yeah,
very clear. He went out of his way to embarrass JR quite a few times.
For sure. And
he said that he felt that being more skilled than Vince at the broadcast desk is what kickstarted their rocky relationship. And he said, quote, I never understood Vince's intense animosity. I think he was jealous. He was never the play-by-play guy that I was, but he didn't want to give me any credit for helping build the Attitude Era to what it was. I'm not the only person responsible for that, for God's sakes. I signed all those guys that made him millions of dollars. That was my roster. It happened to click, and I wish I could take all the credit for it like any other egomaniac in wrestling, but I can't. As much grief as he gave me, I always could look at my bank account and get happy. So I never had the animosity toward Vince that he had towards me. JR wore a lot of different hats in WWE during his time, from talent relations.
Dude, the talent relations job is a thankless job. It really, really is.
Talent relations, creative, the voice of programming.
Yep.
He did a lot. And I did always feel like Vince was pretty bad to him, at least publicly. How do you feel about the relationship as a third-party observer?
I mean, I felt like Vince had a thing. Vince had a thing for like putting people in positions which made them feel uncomfortable. And he kind of got off on that. In all honesty, that was like one of his things. And I felt like he did that with JR quite a bit. That became a regular common thing. There were certain people. I felt like if you ever showed signs of weakness or like, no, I don't want to do that. Or like, being uncomfortable, like if you were outright uncomfortable with it, then he would push it even harder. Because I know there's some people that did get that. I feel like anytime he put us in positions where, and I feel like sometimes he said, like, if you don't go into areas or positions where you feel uncomfortable, you will never grow. And in some ways that is true, but in some ways too, I think he was abusive with it as well. And JR probably was one of the guys he was more abusive with in many, many ways. There was like this real weird rivalry between them in some ways.
I mean, did you see some of those comments from Todd Grisham's interview with Chris Van Vliet?
I did. I saw bits and pieces of it. I did. And it was wild. Yeah. Like just some of the things. Vince was a menace, right? Whenever he was on headphones, I know, because you would say something that triggered him, or he was in a bad mood, and you just never knew what Vince you were going to get. You never know, which Vince you were going to talk to that woke up on either the right side of the bed or the wrong side of the bed.
Yeah.
It was always very much like that. I did see some of those comments. One thing I can say, you were talking about JR and the roster. Jeff and I were definitely JR guys. And I'll say this too. Jim Cornette early on pushed real hard for us to get hired. He said these guys have potential. They're really good. I mean, that's why he brought us to Smoky Mountain. I saw Mosh, Chaz just shared a clip when we wrestled those guys for the first time. And it was cool. We did some stuff for Smoky Mountain, and Jim really was. He was a big advocate for us, and he told us, he introduced us to JR, and we started building a relationship with JR as we were extras. We started getting dark matches. I'll never forget, I wrestled Jason Arn a couple times in dark matches. Jeff and I had some tag dark matches, and I was like, wow, they really are looking at us more than just, putting us on TV to just get beat. And even some of the times we were on TV, they gave us longer matches. They extended our time, which was cool, and we would get to do some stuff. But JR, at the end of the day, is the one who absolutely made the call and pushed and decided to hire myself and Jeff. He also is the one who hired Edge and Christian. So that whole Edge, Christian, Hardy's legacy, which is huge, that was all a JR call.
It's pretty hard to dispute Jim's success in the talent relations department. Everyone talks about his legacy.
No,
but
he was great. He knew what he was doing. And I feel like JR was ahead of the curve because he said, like, we need guys now that are athletic to a degree and can put on an entertaining match and maybe do some of the newer stuff, not just big guys that are 6'8" and chiseled. We don't just need, a big 6'8" chiseled guy who is Vince McMahon's wet dream. We need guys who are athletic and who can have good matches and tell stories and look athletic and like kind of do things that people haven't been doing, because things were opening up a little bit as Pandora's box opened and people understood what wrestling was. It kind of changed the whole course of the way matches and storytelling and characters, how they all intersected.
Yeah, well, there's the famous story from Jim where he signed John Cena and he messaged Vince and said, I just signed your next WrestleMania main eventer. And that one ended up working out okay for him.
Yeah, better than nothing.
Better than nothing. That class, Cena, Batista, Brock, Orton, Shelton Benjamin. It's kind of insane, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that was all JR too.
So wild. All right, man. We got some awards to give out. Do you have another Matt fact?
I do. I do. I had another Matt fact, in the chamber, but I guess we'll do it. And just once again, it's one of those weeks where I put John on double duty.
That's okay. I'm ready. So please hit us with your second Matt fact.
Matt fact: Matt has acquired a new dog for the family.
Whoa! All right, we're breaking the news here. I wasn't sure if that was
the news will be broken as of Christmas, so we're good.
Okay. All right. I needed to make sure of that because I don't want any heat here. So there's a big reveal. So yes, there is a new member of House Hardy, and it has 4 legs. And what are the details here?
Well, there was a video my wife just put out on social media. It's probably some people cross follow us, whatever. And we had 2 dogs come up. I was away when the 2 dogs came up, and they were beagles, and they'd ask like, hey, is Jeff missing dogs? Because my brother has a lot of dogs, and some of our neighbors have dogs. Oh, is anybody missing dogs? But nobody was missing dogs. And then apparently it was 2 hunting dogs, and then they were gone away again for another day or so. And then one of the dogs came back, and it was the same dog. There was no listing on the collar of who it was, no address, no owner. And I'll never forget. I was blown away. My wife just said, hey, it's supposed to be 15 degrees tonight. And my wife's never been the biggest dog person. She's a cat person, not a big dog person. I've always loved dogs. I've always had dogs at some point in my life. And it's been a while since I've been here with her that I haven't. And she's like, I think we should, put this dog in the building because it's 15 degrees. The other dog, I think the other dog's probably dead. This dog seems to be real nice. He is played with the kids some or whatever. They were out messing with him. And then we put the dog in the dome of deletion in the building and made sure it was warm, kind of got it through the night. And that ended up going on a couple days as we took care of the dog. And Evie, our daughter, who is the Gothic baby, a lot of people may know her as the Gothic baby. She's a big world-renowned star. She fell in love with the dog. and wanted to keep the dog. And then the dog was very nice, and you could tell the dog had been around kids and people. And we said, okay, well, we've tried. We put messages out like on all these different platforms, and nobody said anything. We contacted all the people that we knew. Nobody said anything. It'd been over a week. We hadn't heard anything. And then my wife took this dog to the vet, see if it had a chip. It didn't have a chip. Then she got a chip. She got some vaccines, and she got medicine, everything for the dog. She's like, okay, well, like maybe we'll just adopt this dog then. Maybe it was just meant to be this way. And then as soon as she gets home, the people who were looking for the dog said, hey, we heard our dog was over at your place. We're looking for him. And like, our grandson, our grandson's 5 years old and he's missing his dog. He loves him so much, and blah, 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 blah. They ended up coming back, getting the dog. And then the Gothic baby was disheveled. She was very upset that she didn't have the dog. So with that being said, we went and got another dog. So now we have another dog who is a little Dachshund. And they named him while I was away. And I have learned his name is Delete. So, shock, surprise.
Delete the dog, huh?
Yeah.
The dog named Delete.
Whenever we give him food, I go, delete, delete, delete.
Delete, I knew you'd come. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, congrats. Dogs are the best.
He is a sweet little dog.
My 7-pound Morky Poo runs my life, so look forward to that low-level dachshund to run yours. And
oh boy, you need to have a couple kids, and then you'll know about running a life.
Well, oh no, I know, I understand that. I understand that. I'm not comparing the two.
Yeah,
I'm saying the fact that I would suspect that a child would run my life. The fact that a 7-pound Morky Poo runs my life is the real problem at hand here.
Right. That's funny.
Oh, goodness gracious. All right. Well, congratulations. Take 2 weeks off and retire. Okay.
Maybe I should have probably done that 10 years ago.
That's my advice to you. That's my advice. Yeah. Okay, man.
But I told them, fuck you. I'm the top grifter, so I'm going to keep
There
going.
you go. That's right. That's right. Hell yeah. Okay. So we've got some awards to hand out. This is our annual tradition. We got Katie watching live. She's saying that dog video Robbie puts was fantastic. She said last week, this is her favorite episode of the year, so we got to give the people what they want, Matt.
We got to give the people what they want.
So, last week, we released, I say we, the Takedown on Sports Illustrated team, our year-end awards. Mm-hmm. And these were voted on by 9 people. And they were all write-ins, open-ended, and then debated afterwards. It was a pretty crazy process that we went through. And out of these awards, 10 of them were won by AW, which I'll state outright, like, I did not personally vote for AW to win 10 awards. I was pretty even, not for the sake of being even. I genuinely felt that it was a little more even than how the awards ended up going out, but that was the consensus of the panel, and it flipped everyone's lid, and desks were thrown over, and long video rants were made, and so forth.
Were there long video rants?
Oh, there were. By actual grifters, and not by Matt Hardy.
They're not better than me. I'm the top grifter.
Pretty hard. It's pretty hard to be more griftier than you, but they outgrifted you.
If at some point in time I'm ever big money Matt again, I promise you that top grifter is going to come.
It has to be a part of it. It has to be a part of it. Just become a podcaster and post some opinions. There you go. Anyway, the awards, they caused a lot of controversy. So, Matt, whatever you say here, I'm warning you, the internet might lose its shit over what you got to say.
John,
also the normal.
I haven't given a fuck what the internet thinks about me in over 10 years.
That's good. Okay.
So I'm going to be okay.
Okay.
I promise.
All right. Well, let's get into it. We're going to use most of the same categories from the SI Awards, and we're also going to add and revise a couple others here. So let's begin, why don't we, with the Tag Team of the Year. Now, the SI Awards the panel named FTR the tag team of the year. FTR had an amazing year in AEW. They became the AEW World Tag Team Champions again. They worked with up and down across the entire roster. Big part of this Copeland and Christian reunion story. They turned heel. They added your old boy Stankley to the ranks. And it was a big year for FTR. However, I don't know if you saw, the streets are talking about this. The Hardy Boys were named the PWI Top Tag Team of the Year. Which is pretty damn impressive at your place in time and space.
Mm-hmm.
So, Matt, who, in your opinion, your humble, unbiased opinion, is the Tag Team of the Year in 2025?
Without being biased, it's hard to fight for anyone else other than myself and Jeff, Matt and Jeff Hardy, the Hardys. I just saw we won Lucha Libre online. They had a vote. Over 14,000 people voted. We won their tag team of the year. We were obviously, TNA did a fan vote, and we obviously won that as well. We were Busted Open tag team of the year. We were PWI tag team of the year. And it's been cool. There's been a couple other things that I've seen, and stuff not as notable, but I feel like it was a pretty monumental year because Jeff and I, all right, Evie, chill. I got to finish, okay? Thank you, baby girl. Because, over the course of this year, we had 5 different title reigns. We started off as TNA World Tag Team Champs. Then we had a situation where we lost the titles for a couple months. We ended up regaining them at Slammiversary, and that was the biggest North American house that had been drawn. That was in New York, which was a big deal for us. And then we also won the NXT titles. We won the House of Glory titles. We've been the 4th rope champions for over a year right now, so we're holding on to those titles. So we're moving pretty strong. And then we went to Bound for Glory, where we fought one of our biggest rivals, the Dudleys. We actually retired those guys, and we had much better of a match than people were expecting. And regardless of what people say, I mean that's a stone cold fact. It is what it is. Those guys retired. That was also the new record for the biggest North American house for TNA. And then we were a big deal, a big factor in the whole AMC television deal happening. And we made that deal happen. So I feel like our contributions, not only to the tag team scene, but to TNA and to pro wrestling in its whole, like actually putting TNA back on the level of a WWE and an AEW, with being on a major network that everyone can get in their house. It's in every hotel in America. It's a big deal. So Jeff and I, we were greatly responsible for a lot of that success, without trying to sound like a dickhead and be arrogant, but we had a lot to do with that.
I don't disagree with anything you said. Obviously, I'm going to be skewed in my perspective, but trying to put the unbiased, objective hat on. I voted for you guys for Tag Team of the Year in the SI votings. I was actually the only person who had you guys listed in first place. But to me, well, it's not just to acquiesce you. To me, it's a no-brainer.
Right.
Did you guys have the best matches of all the tag teams in pro wrestling this year? Probably not. That's not a disparaging comment to you. Just there were some amazing tag teams out there this year in the ring. But you guys are the only tag team in wrestling this year that were legitimately responsible for drawing. Like, you guys drew tickets for your promotion. I would argue TNA, the Hardys, and Joe Hendry were their biggest draws in 2025, and you guys especially. The meet and greets are proof pudding to that. The fact that you drew the big house, because you guys were absolutely massively responsible for the Bound for Glory house. You were big parts of the media rights deal, and when you did your couple stints with WWE, you guys were a big part of selling some of those tickets too. So to me, it's just a no-brainer off that alone. And then you throw in the fact that you did hold all these titles, you are still working indies, and you're doing it at the stage in the career that you are, that we've never seen that from anyone in tag team wrestling before. Do it at this age that you guys are. It's pretty remarkable, man. You guys had a hell of a year.
Thank you. Yeah, this is uncharted territory, man, for sure. And I think even what you're saying, were there other tag teams that had better matches? I mean, no doubt. I mean, but once again, I feel like a lot of people were outraged over the SI awards because I mean the pool of voting for the SI awards were smaller, and I think those fans are more into, the guys who write. I know one guy, the guy Zach, he wrestled. He didn't he write for Pro Wrestling Torch or something, John?
Zach Hador? I'm not sure if he writes for PW Torch. I mean, he writes for us as well. He might have at one point.
I feel like he did it at some point, but I mean, I just feel like the mindset of those guys is much more geared towards AEW. And
I mean, look, I have to be fair, man. WWE almost swept the awards last year, so WWE won more awards than AEW won last year. So I don't know. I think I've heard people argue that, but I still think it was pretty fair. I understand where you're coming from.
And I'm not saying it's not unfair. I'm explaining why even there is an outrage, because there's some people's like, oh my God, how can it not be WWE? I mean, what those people were looking for, that specific pool of 9 people, their thought process is more wired towards an AEW style, which WWE does that too. And, at times, I mean, there's where they have great matches or good stories, whatever else.
If I can push back, I think it's a lot of it too, because we've talked about this too. Last year when we did our awards, we said 2024 was a bad year for tag team wrestling. It just, people did not get over in the way that they were supposed to. There weren't a lot of great teams showcased. This year, it was a lot better. Think of it. FTR had an amazing year. Your boys, the Young Bucks, had a great year, I thought. When all said, they had a really nice bounce back year. Brodito exploded out of nowhere. They were awesome this year. And there's several others too that I think you can put in that conversation. So
it was, and I will say it was a very good year for tag team wrestling in AEW. I do agree with that.
Any tag teams you want to give a shout out to this year that you guys encountered or you watched?
FTR was great. They're always great. I've always been a big fan of their work. Enjoy their stuff. Young Bucks, I'm a huge advocate for those guys. I also think they're great with the entertainment and character aspects of everything. I think they're masters of it. They're really, really good. And Brodito, I love the fact that they actually got over organically and Tony Khan pulled the trigger and ran with them. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah. Anyone in TNA you want to shout out? Or I know you're a big fan of the Rascals. Any others?
Yeah, no, I loved working with the Rascals. One of the more fun things I did is we've had a couple matches with the Rascals. We've wrestled every different with
combination.
Yeah, we wrestled every different combination, every different member of them. But each time that we have wrestled them, it's kind of been a different time. Especially when we wrestle them like on pay-per-view or on whatever, we're kind of like, let's put together this match, let's make it special. And at WrestleCade, it may have been my favorite match with those guys because I said, let's just call a couple things and then let's kind of like fill it out in the ring. You know what I mean? Let's listen to the crowd and kind of roll with it. Like, we don't need to do too much. These people just want to see like a fun tag team match between two people. We're here in the South. It's casual fans. They're not going to be, they're not going to flip out. We did a couple really cool spots in there, and then like everything was so smooth and organic and crisp, and it ended up being great. And I think it was my favorite match, altogether. It was with Zach and Dez there. Zach was the common factor in all the matches, and we wrestled him and each one of his partners at different times.
Sure. So much better year for tag team wrestling. I'm bummed that I couldn't really in good faith include, because we ranked them in our top 5 for each category. I couldn't really include any WWE names off the top of my head immediately that I was like, this was a great year for them. And I don't necessarily blame the teams for that. I just don't think WWE has really showcased tag team wrestling much at all this year, unfortunately. And I hope that changes in 2026. Aside from a couple of those really good matches, we saw those 2 good TLC matches. There wasn't a lot there. And I guess you could throw Charlotte and Alexa Bliss in there. They had a nice year together, but I paled in comparison to where tag team wrestling was showcased elsewhere in the world, in my opinion. Anything else you want to add on that category?
No, I mean, but I don't disagree with anything you just said there. It felt like there was never one team that like really started getting hot and they realized they were getting hot and they said, hey, let's make these guys white hot and really make them stand out. There was no real standout team.
Yeah, for sure. Josh Henney watching live. He says, question for John. Any reason TNA was not mentioned in the awards? Did they make any votes? So again, the voting was all open-ended. There were no like nominees. It was you rank your top 5 for each category. And I, for several of these categories, I included TNA talent. And I'll tell you which ones as we went through each of them that I did include TNA talent in. And others did as well. And there were a couple categories that TNA talent did come close to winning too. Let's go to the best on the mic, the talker of the year, the promo of the year. Now for our SI awards, Tony Storm won this. I think Tony Storm's amazing. I think she cuts great promos. They're always super entertaining. They're great character work. I did not vote for her as my number one option for this. I'll tell you mine after. Who do you think was the best promo of 2025, Matt?
I thought about this pretty solidly, and I thought about anybody who like really stood out, who felt like they were leading the way in their promotion, being a character, being on the mic. And dude, I'm in agreement. I'm in agreement with that time with Tony Storm. I think she is one of the must-see acts on AEW. Big fan of hers. I think she had an amazing year. Every time she does a promo, you can tell she's put thought into it. There's uniqueness in it. There's creativity, and she's doing different stuff and keeping things fresh all the time. And the fact that she's doing that, I mean, personally, I love her a lot as it is, but I thought she just had a killer year.
She's awesome. Again, no disrespect to her. I think she's great, and I did have her in my top 5 for this. However, Matt, my number 1 for this category that I voted for was Becky Lynch. I thought Becky Lynch turned heel and really ran with it in a way that she allowed her promo work and her work on social media to carry her character into this
yes
new level.
I'll touch on her later, but her work on social media has been excellent.
And she has enhanced a lot of people she's worked with as a result of it. Her promos are competent. I didn't like her first heel run that she did, the Big Time Bex character. I did not like that. I didn't feel like she was very confident in that. Mm-hmm. Now she's much more confident doing this version of the man. I think she's great. Every one of her promos kept me super, super engaged throughout. And yeah, she was my number 1. Rosie in the chat saying he voted for Drew McIntyre. Josh saying Becky was his number 1. Yeah. Any others you want to throw some love to?
No, Becky stood out. Drew was great. I know he's been gone for a little while now. Punk has been super consistent on the mic the whole while. He's been really good. I mean, Cody is what Cody is, but Cody's been great as well. He's been a great representative for WWE as far as that goes on the mic. And too, man, I'm a big advocate for Hangman Adam Page. I think
I was just going to say Hangman.
He is also one of the guys. I mean, you know, I'll say it immediately. You know, he's one of the guys that stand out to me at AEW. Like he's on a different level, especially because he's doing. I feel like the character and entertainment stuff he gets, it clicks with him, and he gets it really well.
Sure. So I mentioned Becky Lynch turned heel this year, and that generated a lot of conversation. We on the SI team had a heel turn of the year category that we're just going to tweak here to be the heel of the year. But our heel turn of the year, because I believe it does deserve a shout out, was Naomi as opposed to John Cena's. Now, Cena's turn moment itself was amazing. But as we've talked about ad nauseum on this podcast, we both felt like the follow-up wasn't necessarily as strong as to what the moment was. However, Naomi, I thought her heel turn was really well planted and planned out, and they executed it. She was operating on another level until the pregnancy. So I wish we could have gotten an even more clairvoyant follow-through on it. Unfortunately, we didn't. But she got some love there. Matt, who's your 2025 heel of the year in pro wrestling?
And mainly because of her social media stuff, I think it was Becky Lynch. She was my favorite person because I feel like she's once again breaking boards. The way she's reaching out, she's talking to Dave LaGreca and Bully Ray because they've made these comments about her. No, you can't do this. It's a conspiracy. The stuff she's done on social media being so interactive has been great. And someone else who I'll also credit, who I think really does deserve the credit for this too, and I would almost put them there as well, was who's in here. This is Evermore. Is John Moxley. Just because John Moxley did see this thing through with the Death Riders, and he went on and he got to the point where I felt like he had pissed a lot of people off because, oh my God, you're so scary. Close the door, Barty. All right. So because John Moxley, they did the Death Riders thing, and I felt like the Death Riders, they ran it as long and as hard as they could. But the deal where he ended up having as much heat as he did have, and the fact that John Moxley followed it through, and he had the match with Hangman, once again, credit to AEW for making the decision to make Hangman the guy to dethrone him. They had a great match. The match ended. He opened it and took the title out of the briefcase he'd been in the whole while, which seemed like a big moment, and it was kind of the redemption of Hangman. But also Moxley was a great villain to go against Hangman. So John Moxley, I was a big fan of his work as well.
Yeah, I think if we're talking about heels of the year, Becky's right there at the front of the conversation. Moxley is as well. I'd still give some love to Naomi, even though her run was short. I thought she was amazing during that run that she had. Seth Rollins, I'd give some love to as well, who I thought he was great. I'm always going to give a shout out to Gunther, because Gunther is always just top tier. And if you're including all of 2025, then everything that just happened with Cena certainly elevates his argument for this conversation too.
Sure.
When all's said and done, I think I'd still probably go with Becky, honestly, for that. I thought Becky had a tremendous 2025, and I was really surprised to see that she didn't win anything with our awards. And there were a lot of awards that came out that she didn't win either. And I was pretty surprised by that, because I thought Becky Lynch had a pretty darn good year when all was said and done. Let's keep it going here. We go to the comeback performer of the year. SI gave it to Ilya Dragunov, who was amazing this year, but he also only came back in October. So there's something to be said for that, I think. What say you, Matt? Who do you think was the comeback performer of the year in 2025?
Evie. Oh, my God. Here.
We have iPad.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The iPad may be the heel of the year.
It is the heel of the year here. It often is in many capacities. So yeah, that was actually one of the things. I think. Let me think. Who were the couple? Name the people that came back to.
So Becky Lynch obviously was in that category. Ilya Dragunov was in that category. I think you could even argue John Cena's in that category, considering he worked the full load this year. He hasn't worked in the past.
Yeah.
There's been several names that have found themselves in prominent spots in 2025. Obviously, Eddie Kingston came back this year as well. Any stand out to you as?
I really do, because with John Cena, he started at the beginning of this year, right?
He did. He was at the Rumble.
Yeah, I think I would actually probably give him comeback of the year. Just the fact that he was willing to come back, and you told me before he was like he offered to do an insane amount of dates, which they don't even have.
He offered to do over 200 dates.
Right. The fact that he came back off of being gone and being a big Hollywood star, where he is not getting beat up and he's not taking bumps and he's not sore every morning he wakes up after he goes and wrestles a match. I commend him for coming back and trying to give his all in that last year, especially just for the entertainment of the fans and for his love of WWE.
I can't disagree with the argument for it being Cena if you wanted it to be. I think it's either Cena or Becky, truthfully. I love Ilya Dragunov, and I think he's deserving of a lot of love, but he came back in October, and we're in December. Yeah. It's been 2 months, and the work he's done in those 2 months have been great, but it feels like maybe it was a little too quick to pull the trigger on that one. But yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying about him whatsoever.
It's funny, John. You're see, now this is a great argument for everybody that is watching this Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. This shows that the pool of people, there's 9 people, like John wasn't in the deep end of the pool with all the other people, because he was thinking John was looking at things in a different perspective.
Well, again, for me, and I've been pretty clear about this, I think publicly too, I thought WWE had a bad year, but I didn't think the performers had a bad year. I think a lot of it was on the creative, truthfully.
That's fair. That's a fair statement.
I think a lot of the performers were very good this year. Mm-hmm. And had the creative been better, I think you would have seen maybe some different results here. But, when you have hot creative or you strike gold on a story, then something changes, Right. Well, let's talk about this one. This was the most loaded category, I think, of the entire voting. And this was the breakout star of the year. Now, Kyle Fletcher won the awards here, and I actually wrote this section on Kyle Fletcher, even though I didn't vote for Kyle Fletcher, though I have no issues with Kyle Fletcher winning. I think you can make a great argument that Kyle Fletcher was the breakout star of 2025. He's going to be a main event guy for AEW in 2026. He's going to be a top guy in that company. But there are so many that came to mind for me for this one. Who is Matt Hardy's breakout star of 2025?
My breakout star of 2025 is Leon Slater. I think Leon Slater is someone who was building some great momentum in 2024, and now because of this partnership and his appearances on NXT and now even Saturday Night's Main Event, he has become someone who the wrestling world knows, and he is going to be a force to be reckoned with, and people realize that now.
I can't argue against you choosing Leon Slater. I'd say it's a toss-up between Leon Slater, Javon Evans.
Yep.
I personally had Leon second in my voting. I voted for Dominic Mysterio because I thought Dominic Mysterio went from here to here this year. Like,
I agree. I mean, I think Dominic did too. I think Dominic made huge strides because he did so many big things this year, and I can definitely see the case for Dominic Mysterio being the breakthrough guy of the year. I mean, you even look through that with the Intercontinental title. He had that match, that thing with John Cena at the end. You know, that little story, which is a huge deal for him. I mean, he has really elevated himself, and his work and his character and his promos have really elevated himself. He's done a great job. A couple other people too that I even want to throw out there for this is Maxine Dupree. I think she's done really well. Okay. It's crazy how she's grown, and also Harley Cameron, both of those.
So I had Harley Cameron in mind. I had Megan Bain in mind, and I also had Mike Santana in mind because I thought Mike Santana had a huge year.
Yep,
and
he did.
It should have been a bigger year for Mike Santana, truthfully. And I think had he won at Slammiversary, I might have given him my vote here. And again, I don't hold that against him.
Yep.
But this was a big time breakout. And, you know, Dave brings up a good point because it does come down to what your definition of breakout is. If it's like a rookie or a newer name, maybe someone like Javon or Leon makes more sense. But if you're talking within climbing the ladder of their promotion, Fletcher, Dom, Santana, those all kind of fit within that too.
Sure. Yeah.
So I don't fault you for Leon, and I could absolutely make a good argument for Leon being that guy. I have no issue whatsoever with Fletcher. Do you like Fletcher? Do you see a lot of it in Fletcher?
I mean, I think so. I haven't seen as much of his stuff, you know, now that he's been more of a singles guy. I mean, I like his work. He's a hard worker. He's a good guy, and I like the fact that he is trying to he's trying to mold his own character. He's trying to forge his own thing. And I think if he continues doing that, I think he can be a very, very big star in pro wrestling.
Certainly agree. We did our heel of the year. What about our baby face of the year? It's tough being a baby face out there these days. You know
who was the baby face of the year? Did you guys do one?
No, we didn't do baby face of the year. I'm adding that into this Hardy Awards category. So there's a lot of great baby faces out there in pro wrestling right now. I'm just throwing some names out there. I mean, I think you guys fall into that category for sure. I think Joe Hendry had a great year as a top baby face in pro wrestling this year. You obviously have Cody in the conversation. CM Punk is in that conversation. Becky Lynch is not in that conversation, but Rhea Ripley is. There's Io Sky was a great baby face this year. Yep. Lots of good names, man. And Hangman Adam Page, of course, too. That we'd be remiss if we did not say that. Will Ospreay, Swerve. Who is your baby face of the year?
I feel like I have to go with the guy who was the face of the company, who was, you know, did the biggest box office, the biggest business this year, and I would go with Cody Rhodes. You know,
really interesting.
He obviously, as the champion, he did that. I know some people were obviously upset with the WrestleMania deal with Cena. I know you weren't a big fan of that match. But the fact that he ended up coming back and beating Cena, and then I felt like the last part of the year he's standing strong as champion. And as I know you said many times, like you don't feel like Cena should be. I mean, you don't feel like Cody should be turning heel anytime soon because there's nobody to step up and take his place.
No doubt about that. I love Cody. You're never going to see me speaking ill about Cody as a performer, as a character. I just didn't think that this was a great year for his character in WWE in terms of the storylines he was booked in and the positions he was put in. He wrestled some great matches, but I didn't think this was. I thought he was much better in 2024 than he was in 2025. And like like even Dave says here, and there's a good point. It's the booking versus the performance. Cody has had uninspired booking throughout the year, but he's still killed it as a babyface, and I would agree with that. I think there were stronger baby faces in wrestling this year. I think Hangman Page, with his story and his turn and then being the top baby face, it's really hard to dispute what he brought to the table as a baby face in 2025. Kind of the very definition of a baby face character, someone who learns from their mistakes, overcomes hurdles. He was the prototype for what a baby face should be, in my opinion.
He's absolutely in that conversation. I mean, I would have him right there too. He would be right underneath Cody for me, because I do think, once again, as you know, I'm a huge fan of his work, especially his character work, and he pays attention to fine detail. And the fact that he has been having all of these killer matches and he's been smart. I feel like he's smart in the way he works. He's tried to protect himself from injury as much as he possibly can. So I am a big advocate for Hangman Adam Page as well, and I do think he is right there in that conversation with Cody.
And Dave bringing up his babyface promo in Mexico was enough to win that award, from where he gave his entire promo in Spanish, which was amazing in front of that white hot crowd down there at Arena Mexico. I thought that was awesome. So yeah, big shout out to Hangman Page. He's mine. Cody Rhodes, you are Matt Hardy's 2025 Hardy Award winner for babyface of the year. Let's keep it going, my friend. We go to the match of the year. SI gave this award to Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. So I don't know, Matt. You said they skew more towards the AEW work style and all that, but here's a WWE match that won match of the year. What was your match of the year for 2025?
My match of the year was actually on that same card, and I guess I am going to be voting it ahead of that match. But the Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns, Roman Reigns versus CM Punk, that was my match of the year. And I was a big I enjoyed greatly the stuff that Seth Rollins and CM Punk did for the majority of the year.
Wow, what made that match of the year for you? I'm really curious.
I thought it was a great match. I liked the fact that they did the deal with Heyman, hooking up with Seth Rollins in this when he betrayed both Punk and Roman. I thought that was a good story, and it was good fuel to drive through the rest of the year. And I feel like for WWE fans, I mean, there were a lot of people in the know. It was like, oh, well, God, we expected that to happen. But the people not in the know, they were very shocked by it. A typical casual WWE fan that is just watching that. And I thought it was great. I thought they had a hell of a match.
Interesting. Now, I'm not disputing it wasn't a great match. It was a great match, and I thought it was a very, very good one. It was one of the WWE's best of the year. I don't think I'd even probably put that in my top 25 matches of 2025, truthfully. The lack of stakes with the actual match itself were a big hamper for me for that. It's your WrestleMania main event. Is Paul Heyman on a pole enough of a stake to warrant being the main event of WrestleMania? You had, yes, the big moments, the big stars in there, but and they ended up telling a longer term story out of it with Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins. But I did think we had a great year for wrestling for in-ring talent. I maybe the creative didn't hold up as much, but for in-ring talent, I thought there was a lot. And I thought the Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair match was the best match of WrestleMania. I actually thought that was one of the best matches in WrestleMania history in terms of in-ring talent, for sure, in my opinion, at least. But I think I got to go with Hangman and Will Ospreay. I think Hangman and Will Ospreay is on the short list for greatest matches in AEW history, truthfully. And it had massive stakes to it, not just stipulation-wise, but it had major stakes for both characters, too. It was a pivotal moment for cementing Hangman Page as the babyface, the top guy, again, in his pursuit to redeeming himself. Will Ospreay did everything he could to make sure that story was told. It was exceptional, and it was electric. And it was my match of the year for that reason. But that's really interesting.
I think I would have voted Hangman versus Jon Moxley being the match.
Really?
Of the year from AEW.
Over the, yeah. So what makes you say that?
Just because once again, you had this thing. This was the Seth Rollins joining with Paul Heyman. That was a big deal. That was a big driver of business going forward in 2025. You had CM Punk finally getting that main event spot. I like that they played on that. That was a big deal. Like these things that factor in that make the match even bigger, you know. And I thought they capitalized. And it was three of the biggest stars: Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and CM Punk in a match, which that is influential in my choice of it being the match because it was they were such big stars. I just think Hangman, that was his crowning moment, his redemption. He wins back the title. It puts an end to Jon Moxley's reign and the Death Rider's reign, and then he starts a new chapter from there going forward. So even if that match isn't as good from a work rate perspective as Ospreay and Hangman would be, that match is just more important in the big scheme of things, in my opinion.
Yeah, but you couldn't get that match without the Ospreay and Hangman match. And you're okay with all the mass violence in that match?
I mean, the mass violence. It is what it is. I mean, that kind of became a staple of Jon Moxley's thing, you know. And
absolutely, 100%.
I get it. That kind of became a staple. I just think the fact that you had someone finally, you know, it's like he was this tyrant ruling over AEW, and the title was locked away, whatever. And then you finally have Hangman come, and he becomes this babyface, and it was a redemption arc. And then he finally defeats Jon Moxley. I think that overpowers everything.
Dave asking, do you guys think that Leon versus Javon at Bound for Glory would have been in the mix with a better finish? I'll leave that up to you, Matt.
Oh my God. That's once again, like I didn't mind that at all because that was for myself and Jeff. Once again, like that's just people get so uppity about like, oh my God, he didn't have a clean finish.
Matt, it wasn't not a clean finish. They didn't give you a finish.
No, they didn't. But four guys ran it. I mean, they went out and they had a hell of a match. They went to a 20-minute draw. Then they got to restart. Like I that is such a. At the end of that, I'm like in wrestling, and like when people were bitching about it, like a lot of people were laugh about it. It's just so outrageous. Like it is what it is. I mean, everything we're doing is telling stories to something else. Right. Like I get it. People get this match and they want this finish or whatever. They're so set on it, but like. It's not the end of the world. Like everything we're doing is storytelling, and everything connects from one point to the next point to the next point, you know. And that was like what they were doing. Ultimately, was like trying to tell a certain story there, and you know, it is what it is.
Again, I
appreciate you got that great 20-minute draw. Maybe we should have just shut it off there.
That's exactly what should have happened. Yes, that's exactly what should have happened. You should have shut it off right there at the 20-minute draw. And then as they're like coming up and holy shit, these guys just had this crazy match. That's when they get attacked. You don't restart the match just to do that's exactly what
they restarted the match to piss people off, John. And that's why you guys like playing into it.
Heat, brother. We got to get that heat.
Yeah. I mean, John, you're an advocate. Like the reason Cena tapped out to Gunther was to piss people off.
That was not the same. You cannot put those. What? Come on.
Is that different?
Yes, it is different. It's way different. Those are not. That's an established equitable act, and doing that with very deliberate purpose that it had to be done that way. That was the only way you could do it that way. You did not have to do it this way. And look, to each their own. If you liked it, awesome. Glad you liked it. Come on. I don't buy it.
John, sometimes you got to piss people off. Sometimes you got to get heat.
It was an awesome match. The two of them. I hope we get that match run back in proper one day because they both deserve it.
You will. They're young. They're young children. You'll see it again.
They are young. Well, we got to wait 15 years until we do. And after that, then we can. Okay, so
maybe you'll wait 15 weeks and you'll get it.
Okay. So speaking of match of the year, how about we do best in-ring talent? As we're talking work rate here. A lot of amazing in-ring talent this year. Sports Illustrated gave the award to Will Ospreay, who wins this award with 26 TV matches that he wrestled all before August, and he's been out of action since August. Of course, right. Ospreay this year had his insane feud with Kyle Fletcher that saw a crazy, crazy cage match. One of the most brutal cage matches we've seen in years in pro wrestling. We saw his iconic tag team match with Swerve Strickland against the Young Bucks at All In. That was one of the top tag matches in AEW history. He had the match with Hangman Page at Double or Nothing that we just talked about, but he's been out of action since August. So some people took a little miff with that winning the in-ring performer of the year. What say you, Matt? Is Will Ospreay deserving of the best in-ring talent of 2026, or someone else come to mind?
Will Ospreay is very deserving. Nobody works harder. No one is more incredible. No one is more of an anomaly when it comes to in-ring work rate and just being insanely athletic than Will Ospreay. But my guy for that choice this year was another AEW talent, and that was Hangman Adam Page. He was my favorite guy all throughout the year. And the fact that Hangman does work a very high work rate style. He takes a lot of chances. He's takes a lot of risk in matches and whatnot. I still feel like he's very smart in how he works because he tries to calculate them as good as possible. And he got through a full year, and now he's the champion, and he was able to remain half-ass healthy.
Yeah, I don't disagree. He was in my top 5. Will Ospreay was my number 1, but my number 2 was actually Io Sky. I had Io Sky and Mercedes Moné in my top 3. It was Will Ospreay, Io Sky, and Mercedes Moné. They were a coin flip for me between the two of them.
Yeah, I mean, both of those, Io Sky and Mercedes, both had amazing years. They were both amazing.
They were incredible in the ring. So, to me, Ospreay is the single most special in-ring talent that I think I've ever seen with my 2 eyes.
Yeah.
He brought it this year during his active time. That tag match with the Bucks, I just thought it was one of the greatest tag matches I've ever seen in person, and he was a huge part of that. And then adding that into the bout with Hangman that we discussed earlier, it was an amazing year for him. And I hope that Will Ospreay, because I know you're a big Will Ospreay fan, I hope that he's able to heal up and come back just as healthy when he gets back into the ring eventually.
Yeah, fingers crossed that he does, man. I certainly hope he does. He's a talented guy that is extremely passionate and loves pro wrestling. So I hope he can make a 100% recovery.
AW feels different without him. It does not feel like the same promotion without him. So I hope that he is able to come back in big form. Let me see. I'm making sure I didn't miss any before we get to these last few ones here. Okay, we've got the story of the year.
Story of the year. I think I may have stooged this off earlier as I was talking about things, but my favorite story personally of the year was the Seth Rollins versus CM Punk story.
Okay. Why was that your story of the year?
Once again, I loved, they obviously started their rivalry earlier. They were going back and forth, and Punk had a great year last year with Drew McIntyre. Punk is a great babyface to bounce off of. I love how Punk is so edgy in so many ways too, especially with his promos and whatnot. He's not clean cut. He's a little gritty, a little edgy in many, many ways, which I think plays into what he does very, very well. We get to WrestleMania, we do the thing where Seth joins Paul Heyman, which kind of gives Seth new life altogether. And then once you go down to the deal, and there's the thing where there was the Seth phoned in an injury where he really wasn't hurt. And then we took a couple weeks away, and then you have Punk. He wins the title, and then right then and there, Seth Rollins comes in and cashes Money in the Bank. And it's so funny. It's the exact same thing that Punk did to my brother, which I love so much. Maybe even I'm biased just because of that fact. And they did that deal where Seth came back and won the title. So that was my favorite rivalry of the year.
Okay. So those were 2 different awards on our things, but I understand why some would say they're the same. So I'll say this. The story of the year, I would probably go with that as well, though I don't feel it was always fluent throughout the course of it. It was definitely more connected than a lot of the others. I do feel like from a standpoint of consistent storytelling, you saw them run a few things back every now and then that maybe were just buying time. I would have this as a neck and neck tie with the Hangman Page redemption arc, because I think that if you look at just the Moxley part of it, they're close. But when you look at the Hangman actual totality of redemption from January, when he's retiring Christopher Daniels, all the way into him winning the world title and becoming world champion and finding himself and making amends with Swerve, I think that's a better story that's told. If that makes sense.
And maybe we're maybe combining some things here in some ways. No, and I agree with that too. That was my favorite story out of AEW.
Yeah,
by far.
Like
because,
that's a
because
clear
you have this guy.
story.
You have this guy reflecting and like all this stuff I've done wrong, and then he does have this redemption arc, and then he becomes the hero, the savior of AEW.
Yeah, like the rivalry, I think, is more in line with Punk and Rollins, but the story, I think, is more Hangman, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, I'm okay with that.
That's how I view those two, and they're very similar. And I actually didn't agree with us having them as two categories because I thought they were too similar. Okay, few more here, Matt, and then we will wrap things up here. The moment of the year. What do you think was the best moment of 2025?
It's hard. I mean, John Cena being the GOAT, being a babyface, someone that Vince would never turn. You know, they always made them turn heel with do the stupid foot thing. Him actually turning heel at Elimination Chamber, sure. Maybe it didn't get the best follow-up, as I think we are all aware of. But the fact that moment just happened and that Cena was willing to try this and do a heel and do something different on the last year of his career, I thought was utterly amazing. And it was a great moment that left people speechless.
Yeah, for as great as Hangman winning the title was, I don't think anything really comes close to John Cena actually turning heel at the Elimination Chamber in pure shock value and the ripples that it sent throughout pop culture and the wrestling world. It was a massive, massive moment. And it is unfortunate that the follow-up wasn't there because it really could have been something so special, but the moment itself was pretty damn great.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that John at least was able to check that off the bingo card of having done it.
Sure, me too. I'm very happy that he was able to check that off, and I'm very happy that he was willing to, step out of his comfort zone and just try something different. That was totally different territory at this point in his career.
Absolutely. I'm with you. Okay. 3 more, and then we'll wrap this puppy up. We'll wrap up our 2025 Hardy Awards. Let's go with the Women's Wrestler of the Year.
There you have it.
So you can take a lot of things in consideration for this. Their in-ring caliber, their character, their promo, their frequency on television, the performances in their feuds, anything you want to quantify this with, by all means.
This was a 3-horse race. Well, maybe even a 4-horse race for me, I think. But when I look over all this, it's hard to dispute Mercedes winning this. She's going on this thing as being the GOAT women's champion. Toni Storm, her work was excellent. I was huge on her all this year. Io Sky was amazing. She had an amazing year, as you'd said earlier too, especially from a work rate perspective and everything else. And then I think Rhea Ripley is just like the kind of star, especially as a women's star, that like almost she transcends pro wrestling. She's a huge star in many, many ways. Those are the 4 people that immediately jump out to me and say like these are the women of the year. Out of all those people, I almost would just go with Mercedes just because of all of her booking and just the way she's been utilized this year and holding that AEW title all year long.
Mercedes was amazing in 2025. She really found her own. She became the belt collector. She had an incredible match with Toni Storm at All In. She worked with every member of the women's roster, it feels like, in AEW, and went all around the world. And while she maybe didn't have the greatest feuds across the spectrum, she did her best to really enhance everyone she worked with. Remember the great work she did? We forget about this because it was so long ago. Remember the great work she did with Harley Cameron at the beginning of the year?
Yes.
With the puppet, and you and I are sitting here on this podcast. We're like, yeah, pull the trigger on Harley. Harley had like barely ever won a match on the roster, and now we're saying because of the work she was doing with Mercedes. So I'm with you entirely on Mercedes. Io is like right there for me too, though, because Io, she was the nuclear option. When all else failed in WWE this year, you punch that box, pull out the nuclear option, and Io Sky's there to save the day. Like, you could plug and play her in everything, and she delivered every single time. As a character, as a performer, as a wrestler, she was amazing in 2025, and I'm really glad that she got over so big. I mean, remember in that triple threat match when she wins that match at WrestleMania? She comes into that match as like the third player in it, and at the end, everyone's like, "Oh my God, that's the star!
Right.
That's the girl right there."
Yes.
So I'm all about EO in that sense. I thought, man, 2025 women's wrestling carried pro wrestling. It was maybe the biggest year ever for women's wrestling. And you're surrounded by a lot of good women's wrestling talent in TNA too.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, it was a really good year, and I think 2026 is going to continue that trend.
Surely so. NXT's got a great group of women down there. Blake Monroe making the jump from AEW, having that incredible Hollywood ending match, and then becoming a top star in AEW and WWE NXT. Big stuff all around. All right, the Men's Wrestler of the Year. Our final two awards here. Men's Wrestler of the Year. Sports Illustrated gave it to Hangman Adam Page, but as much as I love Hangman Adam Page, Matt Hardy, he was not my pick for this award. Who's yours?
I got to go with the face of WWE, the guy who represented them as their babyface champion all throughout the year, Cody Rhodes.
Cody Rhodes. Interesting. Just because he was in a top guy spot?
Yeah, I mean, he's just because he is the guy that has to carry the weight and carry the burden of being the guy that is the face and the flagship of WWE. And if business starts sliding, he's the guy that has to take credit for that. I mean, he's the guy who has to take blame for that if it happens. I mean, it's a very high pressured power position.
My Men's Wrestler of the Year was John Cena, and
Cool.
I couldn't believe it when I put it in there, but to me, for as bad as John's first half of the year was, I thought his second half of the year was incredible.
Yeah, and he's a fair pick, no doubt. John Cena is a very fair pick for that.
He was the biggest draw in wrestling this year.
Yep.
He had legitimately 3 of the best matches of his entire career after August.
Right.
He reconnected with the fans. He performed at a high level at 48 years old when he'd barely been a full-time guy for years. His babyface promos were engaging, and he was part of, regardless of what you thought about the actual follow-up, the moment of the year, as you said before, was his heel turn. Because 100%. He carried the most intrigue, and he did break 17. So, to me, John Cena's the Men's Wrestler of the Year.
Very good. I would not dispute that. I'm not going to fight or dispute that at all.
And lastly, the Promotion of the Year. If you couldn't tell, the Takedown SI gave this award to AEW. I will say this. The ranking, to my knowledge, was AEW, CMLL, WWE, Stardom, and then TNA. New Japan came in 6th. That was the average of the votes when all was said and done. AEW is the Promotion of the Year for the Takedown on SI voting. Matt Hardy, I know you are signed to TNA. WWE is your longtime home. You've spent time in AEW. You've worked everywhere. Trying to be as unbiased as you possibly can be for 2025. What do you believe was the Promotion of the Year?
Well, I believe at the end of the day, you almost have to look at the promotion that made the most money, did the biggest box office, and everything else. And typically, I would probably say WWE because that is who ultimately did make the most, had the biggest events, whatever else. AEW did great. But also, I think there's a part of me, too, that has you almost have to look at things like the numbers they did, like WWE, they've been going where they've been selling out nonstop, and now not every event sells out. Or AEW, their ticket numbers have been down, ratings have been down a little bit. TNA is the only company that has grown, and it's done 200 to 300% of the business it did in 2024. And that is massive. And obviously it's nowhere near on the level of those other promotions, but it is the positive growth of TNA has been incredible. So it is absolutely going to get an honorable mention as Promotion of the Year, no doubt about it. And I am really excited for 2026 just to see where to see what the wrestling landscape looks like after a couple months of being on AMC, because I think some things are going to change, and who knows? I mean, the AEW deal now with this merger that's happening with Warner Brothers Discovery, just who knows where everything lands. But I think when it's all said and done, if I have to pick out one promotion of the year, it is going to be who did the most business, who did the most sales, put the most smiles on faces, and still at the end of the day, that was WWE.
Interesting. See, WWE was undoubtedly the promotion of the year in 2024 by a pretty large margin too.
Mm-hmm.
Business did go down quite a bit in a lot of areas for WWE in 2025. Yep. John Cena was a huge part of carrying the business that they did do well.
100%.
They landed some pretty big deals. They landed the ESPN deal this year. They rolled out Unreal. They did all that. I don't think, frankly, and I'm trying to be as unbiased as I can with this stuff. I don't think there's any good faith argument that you can make that WWE was the best of these companies this year, especially on the creative front. I thought WWE had a really bad year creatively, and I can say that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead and finish your point.
I was saying I could say that because we have the direct comparison of 2024, where WWE was miles ahead of what they did in 2025 creatively. And when I'm looking at promotion of the year, yes, business metrics are a huge part of that, but then WWE would be promotion of the year every single year if that was the case. So what else are you including in that? And I think the next most logical one is the creative forefront. And I didn't think WWE was anywhere near the top this year. And not to say that AEW was perfect, because I don't think AEW was perfect. I think AEW had a really hot April through August, and that was a really transformative period for them in 2025. But it had a weak spot in the beginning of the year, especially with that Death Rider storyline. And I don't feel like the last quarter of 2025 has been very good for AEW either. So go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I mean, I was just going to say, I mean, is that when you do look at who made the most money and the most box office, you do agree that it is WWE, though, right?
Well, it's indisputable. Those are numbers. Those are numbers. It's indisputable. Yeah. But I'm saying if that's your metric that you're going to make this decision by, then they're just going to win every year.
Okay. I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, that's what that is. Business is the first metric that cuts out TNA from the conversation as well. Then,
sure. So let's talk about CMLL then, because CMLL had its best business year in 20 plus years this year. Mm-hmm. CMLL sold more than 1 million tickets this year. Mystico, who had an unbelievable year and received a lot of votes in our SI voting, was a revitalized star for them. They received pay-per-view prominence in the United States.
Do you know what kind of TV deals they have, like their clearance and what they make from their partners?
I don't know what their Mexican television distribution is financially. They do have the working partnership in the United States with AEW, obviously.
Right.
But now, listen, I'll turn the flip side here. TNA, you want to talk about like business metrics? TNA had a great year in comparison to what it's done for the last 10 plus years.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it blew everything out of the water.
Yeah. No questions asked. Now, you could make arguments for or against TNA's creative, however you want to look at it. Yeah. But there's no denying that business-wise, it was a very successful year for TNA in comparison to years past. So TNA absolutely deserves love for that. There's no questions asked, and the business deal with WWE has paid off for both sides, I think, when all is said and done. So, Dave's saying, I do think there's something to say when you look back on 2025, 10 years from now, that TNA returned to the limelight, 2 record houses and a TV deal partnering with WWE. And I think, honestly, Matt, if TNA's creative might have been a little more consistent and stronger, I think we're having a little bit of a different conversation. But creative subjective, right?
Well, to a degree, but 2026 is here. It's a whole new year. It's a brave new time at TNA.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see what TNA's got in 2026. And TNA has a lot of goodwill and a fresh start for the new year. So I hope it's a big one. I really
Yeah.
do. I hope it's a big one that they land. I'd love to see AJ Styles wrestle a TNA match in 2026. I'd love to see Leon Slater become TNA champion in 2026.
I would
So-
too. I would not argue that point.
We'll see. And anything else you want to add on these awards, my friend?
No, once again, so I mean, we're finishing up. This is the last
That's it.
Extreme Life of Matt Hardy for this year. You guys have been following us now for years. It's crazy.
Over 200 episodes.
Yeah. So thank you guys very, very much. We appreciate all the diehardies that tune in each and every week. And we hope you enjoy, the banter between myself and Mr. Alba. We go back and forth and do our thing. And this is fun. We have a lot of fun doing it. And we hope you have a lot of fun listening to it. And maybe we say some things that just make you think. I think that's what's more important than anything else. Like, don't just like outright disagree or like, I hate that take. Just kind of think about it. Like, why'd they do that? And start breaking it down in your own head. Like, think for yourself. Very important factor in life, I think, that everyone needs to learn to do.
Well, if you'd like to join the top grifters in 2026, advertisewithhardy.com
Yep.
is going to be a place to do that. Get your business, your product down in front of thousands of listeners and viewers every single week. That's advertisewithhardy.com. Yeah, man, big year ahead for us in 2026. And I can't believe that we are rounding third and heading home, and excited to see where we bring the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy on the road and the Hardy Party on the road in 2026. Those are some of my favorite things that we do, and I've already got a few scouted out, so be on the lookout for that. That's it, man. Happy holidays to everyone at home. Happy New Year to you, and I can't wait to see what's in store as we open the door to 2026.
That's it. Hope everyone had an amazing Christmas. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy New Year. And 2026 is going to be a big year. Let's go.
The words have been spoken. We'll see you next time on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy.